Are you boys ready?
I am filled with determination.
I was. Alright. 3,
Yeah,
2,
I'm ready.
1. Watching our podcast fills you with determination. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 61st episode of the Tuesdays with Moire podcast, where we talk about video games, and more specifically, the first chunk of Undertale for the first time on this podcast. I'm so excited. Few caveats came along the way, but we worked through them, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the episode nonetheless. I'm your host, Ian Taylor. Join me tonight as my wonderful co-host, a musician, and editor on the side, Devin Kane, along with our co-host and filmmaker of the wonderful flick Hopeless Romantic. But in all seriousness, it's still a pretty good movie. It's on YouTube right now, so you should go watch it. Stephen Beason, how are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah. Oh, just fine and dandy.
Good start.
No, I played part of Undertale, and we'll get into this, but we're gonna talk about that, and I guess some other video games. This is kind of a test episode. See what we can do with it, and maybe review some video games in the future. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a market for that? Do people listen to podcasts to hear thoughts about video games?
Well, yeah.
This was actually
Mhm.
this is actually something I thought about, because I know the Let's Play stuff is really popular, and Twitch streamers, but I don't know, are there video game podcasts?
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because Penguin Zero, like Charlie from Penguin Zero, he has his own podcast channel, and they talk about
really?
video games a lot. The Alex from I Hate Everything has a Jarcast channel, and they talk about video games. And there's a podcast with Austin Wintory, who composed Journey, Alana Pierce, who was an ex-IGN employee, and Troy Baker. I think they have their own podcast as well, and they talk about video games too. So I think there's a market definitely out there. There's a market for any kind of podcast.
Sure.
Just gotta know where to find it.
Yeah, well, there's a market for everything. Just look at Rule 34.
Exactly.
Except, don't look at that.
Speaking of Rule
which,
34,
surprisingly, there's a lot of for Undertale.
Are you really surprised? Are you though? If
a
there's
little
Rule
bit,
34
yeah.
of Brave Little Toaster, there's gonna be Rule 34 of Undertale,
Oh
alright?
God, I didn't need to know that.
Instructions unclear. I got my dick stuck in the toaster.
Holy shit.
So
remember the Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars? Was that like a collective hallucination that we all had?
I didn't even know that
real
existed.
Movie?
I only just seen the first one.
I think I'm having a Mandela effect here. There was a movie. There is?
Yeah, it's like Babe Pig in the City. Every time I talk about it, people are like, "What? There's a sequel to Babe?"
I think I remember seeing like a preview for that. Like I remember seeing just like previews of other movies in front of movies that I had, like on VHS, like they'd have those little previews.
Oh yeah. And the big PHX.
I think I saw it like that, but I don't remember ever actually like finding it, because our local video store never had the ones I actually wanted, so I ended up watching other things. But it's one of those things where like you know about the Brave Little Toaster, you know about these other films, but you just never get around to seeing them because they just didn't have them physically anywhere around you. This is back before streaming.
I think I saw the Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars.
Wow.
Like, I want to say I did. God, I don't even know. This
I'll have
is like
to look
a
into
repressed childhood memory.
There might be a reason for that, but
probably, yeah.
Maybe we'll recommend it in the future. That'd be a good podcast
films
episode.
that I'm pretty sure were created in like a fever dream, and then there are ones that I swear exist that I can't find any evidence for existing.
We should put that dreams with like Mars Needs Moms.
Mars Needs Moms and Babe Pig in the City, which is a real film that Roger Ebert and Siskel gave 4 stars. Like, it's a real film that existed. Yeah, like Roger Ebert loved that movie, and I actually remember it being pretty good when I saw it. Like, mind you, I was a kid, but that was kind of the point where I was starting to be anal about films.
Just talking off the cuff, I kind of want to do an episode about movies that we fever dreamed, or ones that people believe exist but don't actually, like Mandela Effect movies.
Yeah. Napoleon existed, right? That totally happened.
Yeah, Kubrick's Napoleon. It's a classic.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Man, and
It hasn't been in
And the
it
studios
hasn't been
had a
in
lot of heart and faith
post-production hell
into it.
for years.
Yeah.
It hasn't been
Shazam with Sinbad, the genie.
exactly.
That is a real fucking movie. It's so
No,
weird.
it's not. It
No,
is not a
Kazam. Sorry, Kazam is a real movie.
No. See, this is the thing. This is the Mandela effect.
Oh, we remember
Who is in
it
the
as
rapping? Who's in the rapping genie movie?
that's Sinbad, right?
No, it is not Sinbad. Everybody thinks it's Sinbad. It's
Okay,
actually
hang on,
Shaq.
let me see. Kazam. Oh, it's fine. Oh my god,
Everybody
5% on
remembers
Rotten
it.
Tomatoes, 3 out of 10 on IMDb, and 24% on Metacritic.
Dude, everybody remembers it as Sinbad. This is like a whole meme now.
Yeah.
But it was actually Kazam,
Sinbad would have been
and
better.
it was well, probably.
Shaq
Since we're on this tangent, before we even get into the game, does anyone ever feel like they're getting pranked by a parallel version of themselves? I get that all the time.
What makes you think that? Is this because you lost a match against yourself in Halo Infinite?
That's a great transition, actually. So, I mean, yeah, we're doing a video game episode. Hi, Aaron. How you doing? Aaron just joined in. I don't know if you heard the ding or not, but
Yep.
yeah, we're just shooting the shit, talking about games. We're gonna get into Undertale in a little bit.
The minor spoilers for the first 3 acts of Undertale, by the way, but
oh yeah,
well, more on that in a bit.
Before we get into that, I got biggish news. I picked up or I finally, after many years, got a proper gaming PC.
Woo!
Thanks to my buddy at work who sold me his. I asked him like a million questions before deciding to buy it. I was being really annoying, so I appreciate him tolerating that and giving me straightforward answers, just to make sure he wasn't selling any snake oil with it. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's not too often people would sell this kind of rig because they're trying to downscale to a laptop, but lo and behold, he did, and this is exactly the upgrade that I needed because I've been struggling with laptops for the last 4 or 5 years, Windows and Mac for different applications. But I finally am getting a gaming PC, and it's been awesome. I want to get into productivity eventually with it once I set those apps up. But one game I tried recently was Halo Infinite, and yeah, we were having issues connecting my buddy and I into multiplayer, and I launched a game thinking he was in it, but it was literally just me in a battleground by myself for that duration. And it just made me think. I just started walking around and I just started shooting random objects. It was like the bizarre level, and there's like these chickens that run away from the action that's supposedly happening. But it's really weird when you launch in there by yourself and literally nothing is happening, and all the chickens are panicked as for no reason. Like they're anticipating a battle. And I look around the map, and it's supposed to be like a market bazaar, and clearly there's evidence of things, but also the space looks like it's meant to be shot up. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And this is the interesting thing that I find with like game design levels. Like I started looking around at these different places. Like there's one that's a factory, and I'm like, okay, well, how would this place actually run if it was a working factory? Like, wouldn't have Jeff have gotten suspicious that they have to install these gun like places around suddenly? Like it's just interesting. It's like they're like interactive liminal spaces, which is really cool to kind of hop back into.
Yeah.
I haven't done any gaming in years. I used to do nothing but gaming when I was really young, and then I took a hard switch into music playing when I was in high school, and that was like my main interest. And then eventually filmmaking, and now it's all coming full circle. Uh, Games, which encapsulates all of that.
Nice.
But anyway, big long tangent. Halo Infinite's awesome, even though there's lots of
the
little problems with
multiplayer
it.
specifically. You haven't gotten into the campaign, right?
Oh no, yeah, I just downloaded the multiplayer because it's free, and I like that. I like that I can just hop into that and get my toes wet. And
yeah, hopefully the
try everything out.
microtransactions won't get too bad. That's my only concern with
God.
that.
Yeah, that's the reason I haven't hopped onto like Battlefront
Yeah.
from EA.
Battlefield 2042. So laggy that the trailer has fucking lag behind it.
And I do want to try Cyberpunk still. I know that like was launched last year and it was a huge disappointment because it was really glitchy. Thing is though, there's glitches all over the promotional material, so that isn't false advertising. If anything, it's very accurate.
Yeah, there you go.
Of the experience of playing the game, there's fucking glitches in Cyberpunk. Well, no shit.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe. core issue with Cyberpunk real quick is that I just don't find the story or the gameplay very compelling, because I can put up with glitches in RPGs. Some of my favorite RPGs are the buggiest fucking games imaginable. Fallout New Vegas was buggy as hell. It barely works without any mods. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, infamously very buggy, but great story and great gameplay loop if you get past that. You know, I can put up with some bugs if the gameplay in the world is compelling enough. However, that just wasn't enough to hold me over. By the time I was finished, it's like I have no urge to play again, to make different decisions, or to do anything else in the open world. But, you know, obviously, you do what you want with your money, and if you enjoy it, I'm very happy for you. It's just, personally, I think there's better RPGs out there. Even from CD Projekt Red themselves.
It does have Keanu in it.
He does. And he's pretty good in the game. Some people really didn't like his performance, but I actually thought he did a good job with what he had, at least.
You know, the thing about him, I mean, he's not that great of an actor. He's not a fantastic actor. He's good if you know how to play to his strength. But he's such a nice guy. It's like hard to be mad at him in a way.
I know. It's like, oh, he's trying.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's so wholesome. It's like, I don't care.
Knock knock. It's like, oh, he's trying.
Yeah. Like.
But we have one game to talk about real quick, and Darryl and Arron, we're going to be talking about the first 3 acts of Undertale. I recommended this game a little too late. I don't want these guys to rush through it, so this is going to be our early thoughts, more specifically Devin and Steven's early thoughts on Undertale, the first 3 acts, everything leading up to Undyne the Undying. More on that later. For our early thoughts on Undertale, because I want them to play through the game properly, I don't want them to rush through it, and we will be doing a full discussion at another time. Basically, I'm going to let you guys play through the game at your own pace, and when you're done, just let me know, and we'll plan on an episode maybe sometime in the future. I don't know, but I heard you guys did some very different playthroughs, and we're going to get into that.
We had some different series. Well, Ian, I do want to say, I think, 3 weeks is pretty generous advance notice. It's just, life gets in the way, unfortunately. But
and especially with the holiday season.
And also, and partially it was my fault, I'd say. I saved a lot of the playing until, like, this last week, which ended up, this is what happens to me anytime I save anything last minute. Is I got caught on something like, oh, I'll just breeze through this. But the thing I forget about games is that they get exponentially harder as you go through, because that's game design 101. So
no.
you need to allot yourself more time to get past certain bits. But before Steven gets into it, I've really been enjoying it, surprisingly, more than I thought that I would. And I'm really interested to compare what our different experiences have been, because apparently with this game particularly, I think what really holds it together is the storytelling and how dynamic and changing it can be depending how you go about playing it. A lot of people cite 3 different kind of routes through this game that there is. There's the neutral route, where, like, I guess I should talk about the basic mechanism first. In most games like this, where it's turn style, like, your basic option is just to fight. Where here you can talk to them, you can fight, or you can show mercy by sparing or fleeing. And so it really kind of changes the dynamic of gameplay a little bit, where most games where you're fighting against monsters, where this is a kid that gets lost in an underworld and interacts with monsters, most of the time it's just hack and slash and fight through. But here you actually get to learn their stories a little bit if you want to. Like, you can, and there's like little tidbits of character, and I just found that so engaging and emotionally involving at times. Like, it just really, in unexpected ways, pulls you into its world, and I adore it for that.
Wow.
And it makes me want to keep playing it and trying different things as I go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the thing I would say is, I mean, if I have to be honest, okay, the gameplay is not, it's not that great. That's the one thing that I'm kind of not impressed by.
I think that's by design for reasons we'll get into. Yeah.
No, it's serviceable. It kind of reminds me of those old school, like, Pokemon kind of games like you have on Game Boy, where You just run
I think
around and
that's
it's like random
yeah.
monster.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the idea. That's exactly what pulled inspiration from. Like, this was all created by one guy for the most part. So
Yeah, no, which is
I think that was a choice to say, okay, well, what's the most amount I can do with the little amount of resources that I
And
have,
he
and
also made
what's
on
the
Game
easiest thing
Maker
to
on
program?
top of that, like RPG
Right.
Maker,
So
which is infamously
I,
a
I
very limiting
yeah.
game engine to work with.
I imagine
yeah.
he just limited himself to try to make the most out of that experience with his resources, right? So he says, I'm going to do a
Sure.
very basic turnstile game to
But
try to make the best game that I can.
first, let's talk
Right.
about
No.
what routes we're taking real quick, because I took
Okay,
the
so
true pacifist route, and
yeah.
you guys took routes that were a little bit different. Steven, let's hear
Well,
yours.
so when I started playing it, I decided I was gonna do. I didn't really know, like I had no concept that there were these three different paths, and so I actually didn't know that you could go full on pacifist. I thought that you had to sort of fight a little bit, right? I didn't know that there was a way to get out of that. And so one thing that I did was I killed Toriel the first playthrough, and I was like, oh no, I Googled it because I felt bad. I was like, maybe there's a way around this, and I Googled it, and sure enough, I found out about the three different paths, and that there is a way to not fight in basically every situation. So I went back and I started over, and I did pacifist again, and I, did not fight Toriel. And the thing that I noticed, I just want to bring this up quickly, is that the dialogue changed after I went back and started over, where the Flowey character acknowledged that I felt bad and went back and tried to not murder Toriel, this was like 3 in the morning, and it freaked me the fuck out. I was like, what the fuck, because it's so bizarre to see a game that really acknowledges your choices in a narrative and plays it into the story and the dialogue. And not just that, but the choices you've made outside of like your last save. I mean, that's really incredible.
Yeah, and the game does a lot of tricks like that too.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you kill everyone but you spare Toriel, he goes like, yeah, great, you spared the life of a single person, but what about all of those other monsters? They had families and children, and like he's just so perfectly designed to make you feel like terrible for everything you've done. And I think that's what makes the morality in this game so effective, because it's something like Mass Effect where it's like it's just so easy to be a pacifist. It's like I just picked the blue dialogue option, and I'm really nice to people, and I save everybody, and everybody likes me. But in something like this, being nice is way more difficult. And I like that it's way more difficult, because it makes it feel so much more rewarding when you finally convince someone to turn around. Like, Toriel is pretty hard to convince, compared to everybody else you spared beforehand, but that just makes sparing her all the more effective. It's like, wow, I really convinced this person and made them change around, and it feels so much better because of it. And being evil is easier, like way easier in comparison.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how like creepy a demonic flower can be, and I think that's directly like playing off of like imagery you see in Nintendo games where you have these innocent looking mushrooms and flower looking people, and then just having it directly acknowledge your actions as the player. Even if you go pacifist, it starts judging you for it. Like, oh, you're going around hugging everybody, but that isn't how the real world works. So that flower's kind of a bastard no matter what you do.
Yeah, but it makes perfect sense, and he's a great like love to hate him sort of character. Like you barely know the person, but you just hate him almost immediately.
It's like he was turned into a flower to contain his power, I guess, is like the backstory there. I'm not sure, but I took kind of what I would call a passive fist route, where I fought only when I felt I needed to.
So who did you kill? Just out of curiosity.
That was a pun, passive fists. But anyway,
passive-ish. Yeah.
I don't know if I actually ended up killing anybody. I fought until like I think I may have killed one creature like unwittingly, but most of the time I kind of fought until I saw the option to spare.
Mm.
So I guess that technically falls into the pacifist box. Like I imagine there's a little bit of overlap between all three of these, but yeah, I was trying to be kind of selective about what I fought and when I didn't.
Mm.
Although I found one downside is you don't gain any XP if you don't fight anybody.
Yeah.
And I ended up watching one or two playthroughs of things, not to try to spoil anything for myself, but there's certain characters I got stuck on. We'll get to Undyne in a bit, but that's as far as I
Sure.
got in this round. And it just it was so interesting to me just how different that fight can turn out depending on what route you've taken thus far.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the true neutral version of that particular fight, I'm like, holy shit! Like
It's heartbreaking.
it is like there's some real heartbreaking moments, and that's why I come back to like the storytelling of the writing of this. Like it seems really simple, but it's very effective,
Well,
and
let's
I
talk
can't.
about that. Out of
Yeah.
the four main, let's say out of the three main characters so far, we've got Toriel, we've got Sans, and we've got Papyrus. Who would you say is your favorite out of the three? Both of you.
Well, one thing I would say off the bat is I love the fact they're named after fonts.
And Toriel's named after a tutorial. Boom.
Yeah,
It's blowing your mind.
Tutorial and Papyrus and Sans are like the two most hated fonts. Uh, but I mean, it's kind of cliche that Sans is like the main like character that everyone knows about, or at least on the image of things. But I like the dialogue sound that he has, where he's like sounds like Beavis and Butthead, you know.
It sounds like Patrick. Yeah.
But I found those characters like funnier than I thought I should have found them, because it's very
Gentlemen,
juvenile kind of humor. But
I'm gonna have to cut my cameo appearance short, but I
Aw.
did enjoy the game. I thought it was very fun. And,
Okay, real quick,
you
out
know,
of the three characters, who's the best? Go.
oh God, I think Papyrus is hysterical, man. I think he's a funny
He's the
guy.
bestest boy.
You know the
Yeah,
he
the,
makes me
I
laugh.
feel like it was a deliberate joke on Skeletor and like really dumb villains that would
Probably. And
always
I
just
love-
point and laugh
I
instead
love-
of actually.
I love Skeletor, so that's probably why. All
Quick
right,
I'm glad.
Did you date Papyrus or did you kill him?
Did you date him?
the Undyne.
No, Papyrus. Did you date
Oh,
Papyrus?
Papyrus. I think I did kill him though. He was yeah. So I will have to deal with the consequences of
You
that
killed
later.
the bestest boy.
I know. I'm sorry, and I loved his spaghetti too.
His frozen undercooked spaghetti.
Oh yes. Well, I will see you guys next week when we talk about The Thing, Dreamcatcher, and Let the Right One In.
Sounds good, man.
Thank you for
Take
having
care.
me, and I will finish up Undertale soon-ish.
Please do.
Yes.
Yeah, when you get the
Yes.
time, man. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, Darryl. Now that our friend Darryl has joined the podcast, have you played Undertale? And if so, what are your thoughts on our thoughts so far?
That's what I was saying before, though, man. I'm gonna tread so very lightly, because even just some of the things you guys were saying, Jamar and I were just giving the side eye, and I don't want to spoil anything by any means. It is great to hear that that's their opinions so far of the main. Oh, sorry, yes, no, I haven't played it. I've only got a gaming computer, and I don't even, it's Jamara's. So we might actually play it, but I watched the entire playthrough. I think was it Game Grumps or yeah, and Game Grumps
Nice,
I think
classic.
yeah, them doing the voices kind of adds a whole other layer to it. But yeah, they did two different playthroughs essentially. I think we watched a bit of Game Theory. I think Game Theory did a lot of like
Yeah, they did
Mhm.
tons.
game
Well, there's a lot of
stuff.
lore based around Undertale, unsurprisingly.
Oh, too.
So
That is the one thing I was not prepared for, is how much lore and also fan-made lore there is. Like I saw a video explaining what the internet did to Undertale, and it's just
yeah.
I mean,
abyss of fan content. Well, not even that. Just all the alternate universes there are of Undertale, Underfell, Swap
yeah.
Tale, Swap Fell, like all these alternate universe fan-made versions of the games. creating games that don't even exist.
That was very end though. You know what I mean? Like Five Nights at Freddy's kind of spawned it all, and then indie developers were
Yeah,
like,
Dark
"Oh,
Souls was kind of all about
we
like
get
that subtle world building storytelling, where it's like it's all about the lore, it's all about the item descriptions. All of these games were kind of hearkening to that to an extent. But I think Undertale, it tells just enough to keep you updated, but it doesn't tell so much that ruins its world. Like it ruins the magic
Yeah.
of the setting. It never over explains anything. The game's incredibly well paced. Like I played through it recently and it just flew by, which is insane. Like it's Kevin, how many battles you have to go through, how many crazy events you have to. I really want to spoil the stuff in Hotland, but I'm not going to. You just gotta go in blind. It's magical.
I did get somewhat of an overview, but I didn't look too deep into it. I
Good.
do want it to feel fresh when I experience, but I do have some indication that there's a certain character related to Torel that becomes unlocked if you do the full true pacifist route, and that's the only way to really see that character.
I mean, the game
But-
is completely different.
Yeah.
You're in the realm where I think there's like how you said, you can see different playthroughs of it, and you see like, oh, the dialogue changes in this way, or they respond differently. Like when it starts getting to end game stuff, like you said, there's completely different scenarios.
There's
like
brand new fights. There's different
yeah.
music. We haven't talked about the genocide route, which is what happens if you grind.
Yeah.
And that, not to spoil too much, but that's when the game basically turns into a fourth wall breaking horror game. Like the tone shifts completely. Well.
I've seen a couple like early playthroughs of that, and it's man, it's amazing just how reflective of the player the game is, and I love that one when you go to Torel's home and you see yourself reflected in the mirror and it says, at the end of the day, it's still you, or in spite of everything, it's still you, and that's really I love how it really involves the player and the gameplay. And I think the main character is intentionally like androgynous so that it doesn't matter if you're like a boy or girl or
you can
whatever
relate
many
to them one
pronouns
way
you
or
go by,
another.
people go by. Like you can connect with the character. You're just a little long-haired kid, and I think that's again, it's very minimal but very effective storytelling where you get just enough of a kind of an emotional background of each little side character, and I think that is brilliantly done. It creates all this engagement from people of all walks of life that interpret it in their own ways.
Go back to work.
Okay.
I love that smell, by the way.
Thank you.
Sorry, who was that, Aaron?
You got it from Sensi.
This is our friend Arron Kramers. I don't think he realizes it's muted, but that's alright. Just wanted to say real quick, how have we not talked about the music yet? All of which was done by Toby Fox, who did most of the development of the game.
On top of the storytelling is probably my favorite thing of this whole game is how interesting and effective like the music is. Like,
yeah, it's.
And we posted a couple tracks, but personally, my favorite one so far is probably what the chillest track in the whole thing, and it was like the Quiet Water. I think is what's
Quiet Water. Yeah, that's the one that plays when you're near the turtle shop, right? And you're near Nasty Bluke's house, and
I just love that whole like level. It's very tranquil. I love the kind of bioluminescence of everything underground.
The atmosphere just becomes a lot darker. Like the first two areas were very silly and very over the top, but that area just hammers home like how serious the game is getting. Like it's a perfect like second act kind of level when you just finally start to realize like this weight that this setting has. And it's a perfect way of exploring it.
It's like the calm before the storm, basically.
Precisely.
That's how I took it, which is why I probably spent the most amount of time there, because I felt like something was coming.
Now, did you run into some strange little creatures to the south of the waterfall?
I think I did. Which
the Temmies?
Oh, yeah.
I was so happy to recommend this game because I'm just picturing you and Steven going through all of the weird meme humor that the game has to offer, like the dog where you pet it and his head expands out the screen, or Timmy's where it's like, "Hi, I'm Timmy. This is my friend Timmy. Hi, I'm Bob." And
I like how they can take something relatively innocent looking and then just make it subtly terrifying.
because like when the shop, the Temmie in the shop, his face just begins to slowly move around. Did you pay for college? Did you help the Temmie pay go to college?
I didn't do that, but I think I'm gonna try to.
Yes.
Because that sounds like a fun
You will be
option.
pleased if you do. Sorry, Cooleg. It's not college, it's Cooleg, as the Temmie pronounces it.
Oh, I see.
It's just stuff like that. I think that's like one of the free drawings that Toby Fox made on MS Paint when he was bored in high school, and he just thought, yeah, I could just squeeze this into my game. I can make it fit.
I like that. I like how personal this game feels. Like it really
Mhm.
comes from a personal spot, and I can't imagine just how much work it was to write and code all of this. Like I don't even know
Mhm.
how you even go about that, but just to have all these seemingly infinite options with depending what you do, that you always just go back and find these little tidbits of things you didn't find before.
Yeah, that's always great too. And Toby did, I believe, Earthbound hacks before making this, so he's had some experience with RPG Maker. He's had experience with like the Earthbound sound fonts, and there's one soundtrack later in the game that's entirely made of Earthbound sound fonts, like the Gygas theme in particular. But I'm not gonna spoil that just yet. And like he's had experience with this before, but like you said, to make this whole game and to write this compelling story and world, that alone must have taken a lot of work. And I think what makes it work is that when you blend comedy and drama, it can be very hit and miss for me. Like, I complain about tonal changes all the time, but for some reason this game just strikes the perfect balance between like silliness and like really, really heavy and serious themes, because it never lingers on anything too long. I think that's the trick, is that it never stays on a joke for too long, and never lingers on a serious moment for too long. Like, the game's always moving at a steady pace, and I think that's why the tonal changes work so well.
Yeah, and I really like that. It's kind of welcoming, and what like I feel like I can just casually like try it on and kind of be in the world for a bit, um, and really just spend time there. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been trying to take my time just going through it, and
Exactly.
just yeah. And oh, my mom's kind of blanking right now, but there was a lot of interesting questions that came up to me when I was like just going through it and trying things out in this world and what it meant. And I wish I wrote down some quotes, because there were some certain lines that were said that really struck a chord with me. And I think a lot of people have probably, cited everything
Do you
that's
remember who
been said.
said the lines? I might be able to help out here.
Uh, no, not off the top of my head.
No.
I'm drawing a blank.
Like, I know
But
a lot of stuff Toriel said and what she went through, and that whole segment where you just get to explore her house
yeah,
and realize like what she went through in the past. Like, and the game does a great job of using like game mechanics to explore a character. Like, Toriel literally holds your hand for certain puzzles and makes puzzles so easy, and through the gameplay you can tell so much about her controlling nature and how overprotective she is, and how she has to call you every 5 minutes just to make sure you're okay, and she
yeah.
panics as soon as you get there. It's like, oh god, are you hurt?
It's a very familiar thing.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's a
think
bit
a
close
lot of
to home,
people
but
smarters are like that.
well, and I think that's also what makes it feel so personable. Like, people can connect to it on a really personal level, and it's like on the one hand I could stay here forever, on the other hand I really got to get out of here.
Yeah, it's something you kind of see it coming, but the build up to it is so effective that it actually works. Like, it's a great payoff, and the fact that
hmm
did you notice when you keep sparing her, after a while her attacks miss you no matter what?
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that just makes it so sad. It's like, you're trying your best to kind of get by, and there's no way I was ever gonna like try to attack her.
No.
But then just saying that you can't come back now, it's just very damning. And I think that's why I found the whole thing with Sands of Papyrus really funny and refreshing afterwards, just because that was such an emotional gut punch. And this I almost said film. This game does a really good job of kind of taking you on like an emotional journey where it's very serious one moment and then kind of just slapstick funny the next moment. So you really feel like
It,
you're going this emotional journey. Because yeah, it was really heartbreaking, kind of leaving Torel behind.
I know. And it kind of reminded me of The Lion King a little bit, where it goes from this really serious moment, and then we kind of the comedic relief duo just shows up at the right time, like when you need them the most. And I like that build up to Sans, where it's really creepy and really eerie, and you're entering this new environment that she told you so much about, and you don't know what to expect. But that sound of the whoopee cushion is just so refreshing. And it's just such a breath of fresh air, and it's so much about like the pacing of the game and how certain scenes are structured. As for a game, a pixelated, admittedly by the developer's own admission, shitty looking game, can create these emotions and these great like storytelling beats is just like nothing short of amazing. Like he really does push the engine to the limit at times.
Yeah, but it's definitely like surface level shitty. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but some end game stuff in this is so fucking beautiful for fucking whatever you want to call it, 8-bit, whatever. Like he does so insanely much with what like the limitations and whatnot, like you guys have said. Because I mean, you're talking about coding, yes, but like, what the fuck is the coding to do? Like how Steven mentioned, because that's not a spoiler or anything, but like how if you exit the game after restarting or whatever, it can acknowledge that. Like that's got to be like mind-boggling.
There's so much hidden dialogue like that too. Like there's so much dialogue beneath the surface. We haven't even talked about the secret Easter eggs, which
I
can show up at random, and he has a
like,
separate coding for that. Like
Darryl, on the point that you brought up with like the look of it, I noticed that he uses lighting very effectively. Like there's some times where it's just like plain lighting, but I remember I would step into certain parts of the level in the underwater part when you first run into Undyne when she's in her armor, and the lighting would change, and you would just see like a silhouette on your back, or you just see this like sliver of light. And I'm like, oh no, I'm in danger. And it's amazing how quickly that like just change in the look of where light is placed that you suddenly feel like prepared for what the scene's about to unfold. And yeah, I just really found that very minimal this use of like lighting very effective, and it's really moody too. And it's amazing what you can do with just like a few pixels.
Yeah, like it really sets the tone of the scene. I think that's why it's a lot of people's favorite act. Like despite it, I kind of notice in a lot of these games where like everybody loves fast-paced action, all of that sort of thing in video games, but so many games like the calmest levels, the calmest moments are people's favorites. Like even something like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the most generic military shooter series imaginable, every person's favorite level is all gilled up from the original Modern Warfare, which is just a slow stealth level where you're trying to snipe these two targets and sneak through all of this grass. Like not much happens in it, but it's just such an effective break from the hectic pacing that it just works so well. And like the few times Undyne comes is like it gets you pumping, your blood pumping just enough, but she leaves at just the right moment so you can soak in the atmosphere again. And it's really effective.
I think being able to breathe in the worlds a little bit, like even though you're just looking at a screen, but being allowed to kind of just exist in the worlds and feel like you're the character in it, I feel like is what really brings you into it even more when you have just enough breaks that you can relax a little bit and you can feel like you're in this world. And yeah, it's those moments that I really appreciated in this game. That's why the underwater or the under that level.
Yeah, very effective.
Love that level.
And I love the snowy region too. I love all the weird characters you can meet in the town. Did you try going to the hotel? Did you book a room?
I did. I slept for one night, and there was a
lot of slept for 5 minutes. Here's your money back.
Yeah. No, I like that. I liked that the town was all very like decked up for Christmas. It felt very fitting for this time of year. Because
it's always Christmas, I'm guessing.
Even though we did a ridiculous Christmas episode last week, I felt like we didn't maybe have quite enough Christmas on the roster. But I like that this had just a little bit of that in there. Like.
Yeah,
and this is something that I learned about. If you do the No Mercy route and you go back to that snowed-in town, there's less people in it. which it's little details like that that just really.
Yeah, Genocide, there's straight up nobody in it except for Monster Kid.
Jesus.
Yep. And the music's really slow and dead. You can steal from the... I'm going to spoil this a little bit, but that's it. You can steal from the counter at the shop. You can take all of the items, and there's a note that says, "Please don't hurt my family."
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying about the Genocide route. It somehow gets worse from there. And normally I'd kind of roll my eyes a little bit at that force, like, okay, like, oh, you feel bad for taking this route that you normally play in other games, but here it's so effective because at any point you can stop. At any point you don't have to do Genocide anymore. Like, you can spare Papyrus and get a different, like, a more neutral route instead of a Genocide route. You can spare Monster Kid. You can spare, Toriel. Like, every decision you make is in your hands. It feels like everything is in control. Over something like Spec Ops: The Line, which is an excellent game, it's also a linear shooter where you don't really have much choice in the direction you take, so you don't really feel as much for your actions beyond the general appreciation for what the game's going for. But here, everything does legitimately feel like it's your fault, and I think that makes the route so much more effective. And I think there's a good reason it breaks the fourth wall more than the pacifist route, for a good reason.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think that also what keeps you engaged, because in some games, if you get locked into a certain route after making a certain choice, I mean, either you go through with it, or some gamers might even just stop playing the game because they've lost interest in it, because, like, okay, I can see where it's going to go from here. Where this, it just feels much more dynamic, and like anything can change at any time depending on what I do, which is a little terrifying. Like, I like that this game acknowledges your interaction in it, like it's self-aware.
But not to a
Which is
point where it's
crazy that it,
obnoxious, which is the difference.
not to, yeah, not to the point where it's obnoxious, just that, yeah, it just keeps you
on your toes.
kind of engaged in it. Exactly. On your toes. I like that.
Well, so far, with the first 3 acts of Undertale, what would you give this game out of 10?
I mean, in terms of like the emotional impact and my engagement in it, I have definitely been enjoying it a lot more than I thought that I would. I don't know. I remember you telling me about this game some years ago. I wasn't really into games at that point in time, and it looks fun. It looked cute and interesting, but it didn't have any kind of
Impact.
gravitas to it, or immediate kind of like I didn't really have much judgment of it when I first saw it, just that it didn't look that interesting to me. But getting into it and just just getting into that world and into these characters, there's a lot more there than I first believed, and so I've really been enjoying it. I give it an 8.
Nice. And I give the whole game a 9.5 out of 10. It's one of my favorites. Very well done. I can't wait for you to play the rest of it, and I can't wait for a full discussion on it in the future. At this point, Darryl, thank you for joining us. Arron, thank you for joining us. And I wanted to know if you two had any like gaming-related questions for us, because Devin's got a new gaming PC, Steven's getting the next-gen console, and I still have my PC and my Switch, and Devin and I are actually going to play It Takes Two in the future. We're going to try that out. He can just take my friend pass and play with me for free, and maybe I'll stream it on Twitch. I don't know. Well, I kind of suck at gaming, so I'm a little nervous to do that. But wanted to know if you guys had any like gaming-related questions, gaming-related statements, questions about our experiences with Undertale. Take it away, fellas.
I mean, I'll tread lightly in terms of Undertale, but I mean, I totally agree also that, like, from the look of it, like, if I didn't watch a playthrough, I probably would have never been interested in it, oddly enough.
Yeah, another pixelated, indie game. Like, there's so many of those in the market right now.
If it wasn't directly recommended to me by Ian, I probably wouldn't have given it another look, but
exactly.
it really is a special kind of game that feels very personal to the creator. And it makes me very interested in, and I can't imagine being the guy, because this thing blew up and it got loved by everybody, then it got hated by everybody,
and then people loved it again.
Did he just drop a new game too? That's very similar.
Deltarune. He made the first 2 chapters of Deltarune, which he said wasn't going to be a continuation of Undertale, and then it was. Like, the game, you open up the game, it literally says, "Hey, you should play Undertale first before playing this." I'm like, Toby,
like
you lied to me.
It's like a parallel story, isn't it? So I'm wondering,
basically,
could I like play 1 or 2 of those?
Yeah,
without. while also playing this. Like I think I'm far enough in Undertale that I could dabble in it, but I'm very intrigued.
I personally wouldn't recommend it just in case. Like, there's
Sure.
it's not excessive, but there are references to late game events that happen in Undertale. They reference certain characters that don't show up until later on. So personally, I wouldn't recommend it. But the first chapter might not be too bad. The second chapter definitely gets into more Undertale spoilers, in my opinion. So tread
Fair
carefully.
enough.
And they're both completely free. I'll give them that. You know, versus other early access titles, he released the first 2 chapters of Deltarune completely free. So I'll give him a huge bonus for that.
Is Undertale free too?
Undertale is not free, but Deltarune Chapter 1 and 2 are.
Oh, okay.
They're the only ones that are going to be
like
free.
$10, $11 on Steam.
Yeah, it's
really
so
that
cheap.
much. It
Yeah,
was a bit. It was a bit more on Switch, and that's how I've been playing it because I had. It's actually my younger sister's Switch that she doesn't use as much. So I've been playing it.
It just
but,
feels right playing it on the Switch, though.
It does feel right on Switch because it feels like an early Nintendo type game.
And
yeah,
it's
crazy that this was made in like 2015. I don't know. It feels.
Yeah, nostalgic.
It feels kind of timeless in a way.
For sure.
Absolutely. That's got to be a strength.
But yeah.
Not really a question, but I'd also say, I mentioned it before, but like Soma,
yes.
Again, never played it with my hands, but
that game
is one of the greatest players I've ever watched.
It's one of the most depressing games ever made, but yeah, the story is very compelling. It's very much a movie about, a game about what it means to be human. Like, that's kind of like the core central theme of the story, but it handles it in such an interesting and unique way. Like, it doesn't exactly go the direction you expect it to. And it's just endlessly fascinating.
And I think it deals with twists really well. There's a couple of reveals in the game that feel like I can't even describe how substantial it is.
And they're good twists, too. Like, I watched a show called Squid Game very recently. And there's twists in that kind of ruined the story for me because a friend of mine once said, a good twist is like a good riddle. The response shouldn't be, wow, I didn't see that coming. The response should be, wow, I should have seen that coming. I think articulating the twists around that is the key to making it work, and Soma is definitely a prime example of that.
Oh, 100%. And there's again, I think that would be, it's akin to like Undertale in the way that I feel like you could sit down and have a big long discussion about it once you finished it.
Yeah,
so,
there's so much to dissect. But it's also very heavy. Like, seriously, do not play the game if you're feeling down. I do not recommend it. You gotta be in a decent mood to play it.
Not really.
I just realized this has been in my wish list for a long time on Steam, and I've been pretty on and off about Steam. Now I'm kind of full back into it, but nice. $32, really considering that.
It was just on sale like crazy for Black Friday.
And here's the thing, Boxing sale is coming up. Boxing Day sale is going to be huge for Steam.
I'm saving to get the Master Chief Collection and a couple other things that have been in my list for a while.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. You're big on the Halo trilogy, and I actually had a question for you, Devin. Which of the Halo trilogy is your favorite?
I mean, it's kind of hard to beat 2, you know?
Right?
I'd agree with that. I personally like 3 more, but I get that 2 is the best. Anytime
3 is good. 3 was good, but I don't think I played it as much as 2.
Yeah,
you know
2 is just 2 has that timeless quotable quality to it. There's just so many good quotes, and so many more characters are fleshed out and have more personality.
It has that replayability. I find it's just. I found myself going back to that. That was actually the last Halo I had played before Infinite was too. Like, we had our Xbox at our cottage after it's been there over a winter.
Nice.
And I just wanted to make sure that the thing still worked. And the first thing I loaded into it was Halo 2, and I played like a level there. And it was nice going back and trying that out. And I can't wait to see the new rendered graphics of that. Yeah. Apparently, it's like a one key switch between. And I've seen people kind of flip back and forth, and I'm wondering if you could write a code to have it flip back and forth every second, and to see what playing through with it strobing back and forth would be like.
I think they have like videos with direct comparisons, if I'm not mistaken. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did. You know how expensive this power armor is, son? Tell that to the Covenant.
Yeah, dude,
I-
I never play. I haven't seen the new graphics version either. Halo 2 is also
The
my
cutscenes are
favorite.
what they
But
changed
that
the
bomb-
most.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say though. The bomb scene, where like that for me is like one of the greatest video game
Permission
cutscenes
to leave the ship. For what purpose?
Yeah,
Get the Covenant back their
exactly.
bomb. Permission granted.
Oh,
You know
dude,
this is
and
crazy,
I've never
so
seen that
stay
remastered.
here. Well, thankfully for you, I like crazy. I'm sorry, it's so quotable.
It's so good though. That's what I mean. Like, and I've been dying to finally see that, but I didn't want to watch like a playthrough of it. I want to actually be holding the
play it.
controller when
You could
it's me.
do-
Yeah.
Hey, I could get Master Chief Collection. We could do co-op campaign of Halo 2.
That would be sick.
And
That'd be-
yeah.
I've only watched one compilation so far. It was a bunch of people reacting to the Flood for the first time. That people that haven't played it before.
And the Flood in the first game, the Flood level in that is just masterful tension building. Like, genuinely,
Oh, yeah.
even after all these years, it's seeing that first-person view perspective of the Marines getting overwhelmed by the Flood is still, like, really haunting and effective. And even Halo 2 has a great moment with the Flood where you're thrusted down this tower and you have to fight your way out as the Arbiter. It's just fantastic atmosphere that's kind of lost in 343's games. I think that's kind of like the missing element in those is just like the great sense of atmosphere and world building. It's kind of more about, explosive spectacle and over the top emotions, and Halo wasn't really about that. There was some hurt to it. There was a genuinely interesting world beneath the surface. There was an atmosphere, a tangible atmosphere to every inch of the game that the 343 games are missing, in my opinion.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played too many of them, but yeah, no, I definitely agree that Halo just had that impact to it that years later, after I haven't played it for like almost a decade, I still remembered, and it had tangible effects when I went back into them. Like, oh yeah, I remember this, and it just it just ropes you right back in.
Yeah, I know.
And that's kind of the staying power of that game, I find.
And Halo 2 was admittedly more tongue-in-cheek than the other two games. Like, a lot of people admitted that it felt more self-aware, because there's the moment where it's like, hey, Sergeant Johnson, how'd you make it out there in one piece? Sorry, it's classified. Classified my ass, because if you see, like, the true ending of Halo Combat Evolved, where Sergeant Johnson clearly blows up, how the hell did he make it out there in one piece? So it felt like
That
the
is
game was
funny.
being like, yeah, how the hell fuck did he make it? I mean, I'm glad he's
I
back.
feel like
He's the best character, but how did he make it out?
I feel like a lot of sequels probably get self-aware because, with the first in any franchise, it's a bit of a gamble of how successful it'll be.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if they anticipated how successful the first Halo would be, but once they get the second one and they have money, they up the ante and then they start to make fun of themselves a little bit. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good, sign of growth,
Yeah.
usually.
There's
And
enough
one of my
self-awareness
favorite
to it.
clips is the behind the scenes in the studio
Yes.
when they are trying to update the soundtrack to add some guitar to it, and they hire Neil Rogers, who is a session musician from the disco era, and you wonder why they hire him on. Well, since disco hasn't been like popular music for years, Neil's just been like an awesome guy to have in the studio. Like, he produces and he gets the right people together for a certain project. And so there's Neil Rogers hanging out in the studio, and he brings in Steve Vai to just improvise something. Like, he says, we're gonna run a few takes of this, just try some stuff out, see, like, listen to it, feel it out. And he's just kind of encouraging him to try stuff. And Steve is like, well, I don't know why, I want to try this thing with the whammy. So he does like this dive bomb, which is what you hear in the final version. Like, Steve's riffing from the first take, a lot of it ended up in the final track, like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also like the Bungie logo. It's like,
Yeah, that fucking dive bomb it was just his instinctive first thought of, this is what I want to hear for a guitar part on this soundtrack. He just heard it and he tried it, and it ends up in the final version. And I love that they have that on video as well, just seeing that kind of initial creative instinct and then it being such an iconic part of the soundtrack. And they go back and they re-record some parts and they refine some things, but I love just seeing that initial like spark of inspiration. It's such a fucking killer iconic soundtrack, and I fucking love the sound of that dive bomb when you load up Halo 2. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just me. That's me geeking about my music background and my game background.
Yep. God
Hey, they
bless
overlap,
Marty.
man.
I love that. Yeah, that's what I love about film and games, is that it's kind of the uh, melting pot of all these different mediums of expression,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what that's what I'm rediscovering about them as I get back into this, and that's what I'm loving about it. Because what got me out of games, ironically, was a game, and that was Guitar Hero and Rock Bands, and
Yo.
that's where it's like, it's like
Music.
I really got into those, and it's like, fuck it, I want to do the real thing. I actually did try learning guitar first before I picked up Guitar Hero, but those two things kind of happened around the same time, and that's when I really started seriously wanting to learning how to play music. But it was Guitar Hero and it was Rock Band that inspired me to actually uh, pick up a guitar and pick up drums. I actually learned the basic rock beat from Rock Band. Like, it's the same. Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's basically the same movement. I just have to put my hand over here because that's where the hi-hat actually is. And then I learned
Yeah, I
drumming
hated that part.
from that,
Yeah.
basically.
I think
yeah,
Rock Band Free, was it, where you could like actually learn to play the guitar and you could actually learn to do a guitar?
That's
I think-
rock.
No,
That's
that
Rocksmith,
was
sorry.
that was Rocksmith, which
That's
I
right.
actually I want to pick that up actually, just because that would actually help me practice
Hey,
guitar.
yeah, you have a guitar
I
you can use
I,
for
I,
it.
I've been playing it off and on for over the years. I've been just getting a little more serious about it again. I've been taking gaming more seriously. I've been taking music more seriously lately,
Mhm.
and I've been loving those. And I want to
That's-
eventually get a really good camera and start taking filmmaking seriously again.
Yeah, it's a good way to approach it.
2022 is your year, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It could go one of two ways, but I'm hoping for the brighter way to
I
come.
appreciate the encouragement. It fills me with determination.
Hey, he said the thing.
I said the thing.
Yeah.
It's the meme.
Have you played?
Hopefully the invaders from Omicron Persei I ate don't thwart my plans this time.
Onward! Thank you for bringing that, Sergeant Johnson. He never gives me anything nice. Oh, I know what the ladies like. Just, man.
All right.
Sergeant Johnson was like such a nothing character in Combat Evolved, but they just gave him so much more character in the sequel.
That
And
voice
how you
actor.
doing?
How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Is that feeling alright?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, keep
Nothing.
telling yourself that. No, it's all good. You
Yeah.
can talk.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
all
talk to
right.
us, man. It's all good.
No. I got nothing to say except for all the videos I shared here, like trailers for like indie games that I like to try out.
Yeah, the Puppet
yeah?
Master.
Faith, Murder
Yeah.
House.
Yeah, Faith
Looks-
is an interesting one.
I tried this one game. I never got very far in it, but it looks really interesting. Called Carry On, I think. It's like you're
yes,
this.
that game is so good.
It's like you're this mutated alien kind of virus thing that was quarantined, and you have to basically go around and kill everybody and consume their flesh in order to grow.
Yes,
Oh,
it's such
you
a
know
good
one
game.
game I love to play?
What's that?
Slaps and Beans.
Slaps and I'm sorry, what? I need you to run that by me again.
Okay, I sent you the trailer like on the live feedback. Slaps and Beans. It's like a. It's like an
there
arcade.
it is. Oh, it's like
an
an arcade
style
game.
Beat 'em up.
Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill? Why does that sound familiar?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, that's because they're the famous movie duo, Bud Spencer
Ah.
and Terrence Hill. They did a lot of like movies together. They were like big in like Europe, but unknown in North America, which is odd, being as most of their films were shot in the States.
I know these guys. Okay. Sorry, I just need to see their faces. One guy looks like Pierre Jackson, but I know
I have no idea who these people are. When you said Slaps and Beans, for some reason, I thought of that guy Madden short, Sissy Boy Slap Party. I don't know why I thought that.
I was thinking Futurama of Scruffy and the Beans.
Oh, yeah.
So you're done using internet computer.
There's also that really terrible, was it Johnny Rotten or some guy from the side? It was some guy from some punk band back in the 80s who tried to do rap at one point, and I think it was like there's this lyric where he says Franks and beans, and
I think it
it's a
was
bad.
Malcolm McLaren, but
Was that who it was? I
I
don't
believe
remember.
so.
Nice. But yeah, there's
Why'd
lots
you
of great.
spill your beans?
Why'd you spill your beans?
There's also that line. We're
Yeah.
just quoting memes and different references at this point. This is what
exactly.
I think meme culture is a real true melting pot of all these mediums.
I think that's why games like Undertale have aged so well, because a lot of the humor is very, very much in line with meme culture. Just very bizarre,
Oh, yeah.
very out there,
I mean,
easily quotable.
I mean, the fact that just Sans and Papyrus are named after the two most quote-unquote hated fonts is hysterical.
Or if you just
And
keep petting the lesser dog, his head just expands beyond the screen. Just perfect for out of context videos, which is so
yeah,
popular right
it's
now.
that kind of absurd, random kind of humor that the internet thrives on. It's very absurd and surrealist, which I love that stuff.
I'd agree too.
Okay, I have a question for you guys.
Ooh, listening.
Shoot.
It's a video game question.
Good.
What was your first M-rated video game?
Ooh, that's a good one. God of War.
For me, it was probably Halo, and you know, and we've been talking about that, but yeah, it was probably Halo, and I remember this exact line of reasoning, and it was perfectly quoted in a meme. This all comes together, but it's like someone took the cover of Halo 2, except it didn't have any writing on it. It said, "Mom, can we get this game, please? It doesn't have any it doesn't have any people in it. It's all aliens and the blood's fake." You know, like it's that kind of like line of reasoning of how you justify getting like a certain game that's out of your age range.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was like almost exactly what I remember saying to my mom to try to convince me to get me Halo when I wanted it. But
see, the funny thing is, I didn't play Halo till Halo 3, so actually,
oh wow,
God of War, the first
Never
God of
played
War.
Halo.
No, I've played Halo. It's just I haven't played Halo until Halo 3. That was the first one I played. Then I
Wow.
played Combat Evolved. Then I played 2. Then I played Reach and all of those games.
I
But
can't remember how old I was when I was probably like 7 or 8 or something when I got Halo, maybe a little older.
yeah, I think I
But
was in my early, like, teens, tweens. I was like a tween, I think. 2007.
okay.
I was born in 1996. I would have been 11, so yeah, that checks out. So, but God of War, played that when I was like 9 years old, and it's got tits, it's got tons of blood and violence, and I have no idea how my parents let me play that game. My dad sat with me as I played through certain parts of it, which you can imagine just how awkward that is.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I can't believe they let me get away with that, but it was amazing. I was just having so much fun. I was in awe of it. Even my mom was like, "Wow, this is really cool." And yeah,
Wow.
like playing a game like that really young, because I haven't played like Devil May Cry. I haven't played any beat 'em up games or anything along those lines. So having this game where it's like you just tear through hordes and hordes of enemies and like this intense cinematic action game was something I haven't really experienced before. So it was just such a cool experience for the first time. Even though the first God of War doesn't really have any boss fights, it has one boss fight, which is an amazing boss fight. But yeah, besides that, it is kind of lacking in that category, unfortunately, because the sequels have some fantastic bosses. But
Meanwhile, I remember how violent looking 007 GoldenEye was when I first saw it.
well, it's the first time you see something like that. It's like, what's this red stuff?
Ah,
Looks like paint.
I don't think that was M though, was it?
I
I'm pretty sure.
think
It was
it may
teen.
have been.
Rated T for teen.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
T for
teen, yeah. It
Which
wasn't
is-
M.
Twisted Metal was also T.
Oh, Twisted
But-
Metal. Yeah, I was gonna say Twisted
Man.
Metal, then I remembered that was somehow
The
rated
one
teen.
console I didn't have growing up was PlayStation, and I was actually, I know I was either I had N64 and then I had Xbox and then I had a Game Boy at one point, but that's pretty much been the trajectory of my consoles growing up. I
Mhm.
never had a PlayStation 1 or 2, and I feel like there's a whole era of gaming that I've missed out on. And even when I got the Xbox, I remember going to like Walmart and they would have those like free like PlayStation pamphlets, and I would like steal those, and I would
Nice.
look at all these games that I couldn't get,
Just
like
get the demo
Siphon
discs.
Filter.
Yeah.
But
Siphon.
like these days, you can get a PS2 for not that much, and
Yeah.
I'm
And buy a bunch of games at a pawn
I'm
shop.
considering picking one up.
Yeah, you know,
just to
for
get into
nostalgia. But I recommend playing it on a CRTV. Because playing games like that on a HD TV with all of the stretched out pixels, it's not good time. So if you got like an old
I imagine.
CRTV, definitely use that.
Apparently, you can modify a PS2 to upscale to HD.
Apparently it has a really weird stretching effect when you do that, though. That's what I
I
heard.
can
Metal
imagine.
Jesus Rocks like showed that like HDMI, like a HDMI PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I think Gaming Brit Show did something like that too for Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, and he said it just had this really weird stretching effect, so he just used his old CRTV instead. Yeah.
Okay.
What's your
He's got a
first
lot of-
M-rated game, Aaron?
My first M-rated game,
I think-
Mortal Kombat 4.
Oh. I thought it would have been like Grand Theft Auto, because you're big on
No,
Rockstar.
Mortal Kombat's invented the M rating.
Yeah, we
my
probably
first
Yeah.
my first M-rated game was not Grand Theft Auto.
Mortal Kombat 4, yeah.
Kombat 4, and that got me into Mortal Kombat, and that's what got me into like all the violent stuff. Just seeing like my cousins like beat the crap out of each other in their N64 Mortal Kombat game, like
Yeah.
seeing like Johnny Cage like rip Jax like apart and have like left like an image in my my 5-year-old autistic mind.
Oh. Fucking so.
But my second M-rated game that I have played was Conker's Bad Fur Day,
Oh yeah.
Oh, Conkers. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't.
where I got my sense of humor from.
Yeah, I
Right,
did not
that's good.
own an N64, so I missed out on Conquer
Played
and
a
missed
lot
out
of
on
M-rated games
Banjo-Kazooie.
when I was little.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
need
yeah,
to be pleased with N64 because that's how you learn to play Mario Kart.
yeah. Well, I just played on Wii Virtual Console. That's where I played all those games. And Banjo-Kazooie, I just played on Rare Replay. I didn't get a
That's
Nintendo
great.
console until the Nintendo GameCube, and that's because it was gifted to me. I had no idea what Metroid was at the time, but my dad gifted it to me on a whim, and I wasn't too excited to play Metroid Prime at the time. I was like, alright, I guess I'll do it, but I literally spent 24 hours playing it the next day, and the next few days I spent like 10 hours a day playing it, just 100%ing it, getting every goodie. I was just in love. It's the first shooter I played where I was just really absorbed in the world and the atmosphere. I read every piece of lore and detail on every piece of environment, which was insane because my parents know I hate reading, but all of a sudden I'm just reading all this text about like, you know, research labs and the nature of the planet I was in, and that is when I officially fell in love with the Metroid franchise, and that's why it's currently my favorite Nintendo franchise to this day. So thank you,
Nice.
Metroid
I
Prime.
played a
Good.
demo of Dread the other day, and it looks fun. I
Dread.
really- yeah, Metroid Dread. That's the
Metroid
new one, right?
Dread. Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I thought
pretty
you-
good. It's pretty good.
Like Judge Dredd.
Not as good
Uh.
as other Metroid entries in my opinion. I do have some issues with the level design in particular, but it's still very well done. Still recommend
Mhm.
playing it.
It looks fun.
Yeah,
I was just looking this up. Apparently, Grand Theft Auto is only like $14 now.
don't.
Like the
That's
last
the
one that came out.
remaster, right?
Speaking of
Yeah.
Grand
Oh
Theft
no,
Auto,
no! Do not
Yeah, that
play
was
the
mine.
remaster. No.
Definitely my version.
no, you don't want to
Dude,
play the remaster.
Do you remember how
Why
bad
is
the
that?
Silent Hill
is that?
remasters were when they came out?
Oh,
Pretty
Okay,
much
let me look up a
bad.
video of the Grand Theft Auto free remaster glitch compilation. It'll probably be like 20 minutes long, but let me see if I can find
Speaking
it.
of Grand Theft Auto,
Yeah.
next question: what's your favorite Grand Theft Auto game?
I'm not a fan of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. I prefer
Ooh.
Red Dead Redemption. I'm sorry.
Fair.
Here,
it was
Devin, I'm
one of
posting
those
a video
game
of all the
series
glitches.
that it was one of those game series that my mom, under no circumstances, would ever let me buy or get into. Although my
What?
cousins would get them, so anytime I'd have to, I'd have to watch them play it or, beg them. I think I played a little bit of GTA 4, like some time ago, and it was fun.
I don't know. It's
But
just the franchise
I,
never really did
I,
anything
I,
for me.
I always had like a third person view of it, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
Yeah,
I
backseat
had
gaming.
that was a lot of my like gaming growing up was watching people game. If it
Oh.
wasn't a game,
Yeah, me
I was
too. Mostly
oh,
because
no,
I
I'm
suck.
You were the lucky cousin then.
Sit down. But yeah, mine would probably have to be 5. Like I have a lot of like good memories with 3 and like chilling with my friends and listening to like my own soundtracks on my Xbox because there was that cool thing where you could put your CDs on your Xbox and then it would basically be a radio station in GTA.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
sick.
so much cruising to some 41's Chuck album. I tell you what.
Nice.
Nice.
But yeah, no, GTA 5 is like the week it came out, like it was hard to. It's the only game that's ever interrupted my schooling. Like we were just in college. What was that, second year when that came out? And I came home and Jamar bought it for me like the day it came out. Like no waiting, no fucking overnight shit. Like
Showed up.
Wow.
they had them at Walmart, and yeah, so that first playthrough, like the 3 storylines and everything, like I think it has to be my favorite.
What was the first
Yeah.
M-rated game you played?
It was that moment forward you knew he was a keeper.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, what's your first M-rated game, Daryl? And what's Jamar's first
Jamar
M-rated game?
said, no, Twisted Metal was 2. We went over that. It was
That's
Mortal
D.
Kombat. You just said.
Yeah, probably
So
Mortal
yeah,
Kombat.
hers was Mortal Kombat.
Nice.
Mine, like third person, I never got to play it myself because it was a first person or a one player game. Was Conkers, but the game I did get to play first, yeah, it was GTA 3. That's why I think I had.
Yeah.
It was
Nice.
finally like.
Oh
I was
shit!
old
Here
enough
we
my
go
parents-
again.
You know. Yeah, and I never played. It took me a long time to ever play Vice City and San Andreas.
I heard
It's
Vice City's better. Like I hear
Vice
those games
City's
are better.
pretty good. It's
Yeah.
got a samurai sword. I liked that.
Hey,
like,
the characters, I
Andreas
think,
is
apparently made it a lot
fucking-
better.
San Andreas is super fun for like biking and like you actually have health stats. Like there was a lot of revolutionary stuff in San Andreas. But yeah, it's a weird. It's to miss out on that arc is crazy. Like it's weird that you guys didn't, because so many of my friends and I like we started with GTA 3. We played the older ones for fun, but then like played every game as they came out, right? So it's just like
Yeah.
wow.
I
Crazy
just
to
don't
miss
think
that.
I'm big on sandbox games, especially those kind of sandbox games. I
Well,
I
sandbox-
like my game worlds
hard.
to feel like complete. Like I'm a big fan of like semi-open, where it's not so open world that everything feels empty and repeated, but there's enough to do within the world and like enough activities to keep you entertained and enough unique things about each part of the setting that makes it compelling. Like, you know, something like Persona 5 or Yakuza Like a Dragon or Divinity Original Sin 2, Planescape Torment, Fallout New Vegas. Like that has the smallest world of all the Fallout games, but it's easily the most compelling. Like every location you go to has new characters and new quests, and every decision has immediate impact on the world around you, despite the fact that it's probably the smallest world of all the Fallout games. There's so much meat condensed into it that it feels so much more alive than something like Fallout 3.
Kind of like a Fable vibe, because I've never played any of those games. that you just
Fable,
like, but like, you know what I mean? How it's like kind of like you feel like there's a lot. you
yeah,
could
Fable
do
has that
pretty
problem
linear and
where
locked up.
yeah, I have a soft
Fable
spot for
one.
the Fable games, but I'll admit they're very flawed. They're not
Oh, yeah.
great gameplay wise, and they have that Sims problem where like everybody is like repetitive NPC. There's very limited ways to interact with them, and it doesn't quite nail that aesthetic. But you know, something like trying to think of stuff you've played, Dragon Age 2. If it was like more fleshed out and more of your decisions actually mattered, but something like Kirkwall, where it's like this limited space with like all these different characters and quest lines, every area feels distinct from one another, every area has a role to play. Something like that, just taken to the nth degree, are the kind of worlds I love, and that's why I love like Metroidvanias in particular, where it's like these small constructed environments, but they're all like interconnected. They all have different aspects to it, like Resident Evil, Super Metroid, or Bloodborne, Dark Souls,
Oh,
anything
yeah.
along those lines.
Okay.
Hang on, Stephen posted this. Dear Stalkers, we hear you. Based on the feedback we received, we've made the decision to cancel anything NFT related in Stalker 2. What NFT? I'm sorry, what?
Oh, one of those like,
Not
it's like
Non-fungible.
yeah, non non-fudgeable tokens.
Wait, but
Which I didn't even know you could get fudge tokens to begin with. If I do want one, I want ones that are made of fudge.
What is that though? I'm not too
it's
sure.
no, dude. Okay, we are like a hair away from an off the record right now.
Oh god.
Let's not get into that then. We'll save that for another time. Sorry, guys.
It's digital art curation.
Oh, God
basically.
damn it!
It's like a left turn.
It's like how you
It's
it's
a
like
Rule
buying
34,
digital art
basically.
with Bitcoin, basically.
Oh, good, fantastic. Anyways,
Anyways.
I have a question for you guys. What would you
tell you my favorite GTA game?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
What's-
I've played most of the GTA games, so I can tell you like my favorite GTA game, like as a whole, would probably be Vice City, but that's because I like the Florida setting and the music.
Very
The
Scarface-esque.
And my least favorite would have to be Liberty City Stories.
Yeah, I heard Grand Theft Auto 4 in general was very hit and miss. Hey, cousin, you want to go bowling? Like, I got like 5 hours into it. I was like, yeah, not buying it. Not really my thing.
What's your question?
My question was, what are some of your? It's kind of a generic question, but I'm kind of curious, anyways. What are some of your favorites? Like, if you had to pick a top 5 in your mind right now, what would be like your top 5 favorite games that you've played over the years? And these could be like really influential games. They could be like genuine favorites growing up, or genuine favorites you look back on with fondness. Just like a general top 5, because I was kind of alluding to that in the previous episode. And I'm kind of curious if you guys like have any definitive answers for that.
Well, I'll try not to think too hard about it, but for me, I'll just say off the bat, probably like Super Smash Brothers. It's kind of hard to beat that game. That's like the one that's always loaded in the Nintendo. Like that's probably just the game I've played the most over the years.
Ooh.
Doesn't matter at what stage I am in my life, I can always smash the bros. Doesn't sound right, but
Of
no.
course you can. What's wrong with that? You're just smashing your bros, give each other handy J's. You know, it's just another day in the office.
Oh, okay, that's not what I meant. But no,
Sure it wasn't.
Unite, bro. It's okay.
yeah.
It's okay to be gay.
Anyways, number 2.
Okay. Now I'm stuck on that one. Okay, there's that. Halo, I obviously mentioned. That was huge. I haven't played Rock Band or Guitar Hero ever since it came out. I don't know if I would again, but it was kind of my springboard out of the game world and into the music world. So I give it props for that. And then there's just some weird indie games that I've kind of appreciated over the years that I've gotten into. There's this one that I picked up some time ago called The Bridge. And it's just like this like puzzle game where you kind of manipulate gravity to try to solve these puzzles, and all the levels are like they're almost like hand drawn looking.
Yeah.
And they're very much inspired by MC Escher's drawings and lithographs, and I just think it's a really beautiful kind of black and white mathematical like type of game. And yeah,
And
how many is that? 3, 4?
Kevin MacLeod did the music for that, and he also did the music for Deus Ex Human Revolution and Kerbal Space Program. That's insane.
Well,
yeah, the Stanley Parable.
He's also
just mentioned?
actually Kevin MacLeod. Like people that make online content should recognize his name because he's probably the biggest creator of free to use music ever.
Yeah, he's smart to become.
Also, I got the Human Revolution composer wrong. I'm sorry, Michael McCann.
He's got a website called Incomputech, and it's literally every bit of music you've heard on YouTube.
That's it. Okay, I'm sorry. I get those two mixed up a lot. They look very similar. They're very similar looking people, so I apologize about that.
He's got some good stuff. I
sure.
appreciate the fact that he's made so much music and has made it available for everyone to use for whatever they need, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do appreciate that as well. Did you mention the Stanley Parable?
Fire.
Oh yeah, I was about to get to that. I don't play it a lot, but that was the kind of game that got me interested in games again, kind of like it's just like, huh, there's some interesting concepts you can do in
Mm-hmm.
the indie world, and it's really, I think it was a Stanley Parable, just hearing the concept of it, because I was really getting into my film snobby years, which I'm still kind of getting out of. But actually, this podcast has almost been an antidote to me being a film snob, because I kind of watch movies from a little more of a neutral kind of perspective rather than this is high art, or whatever. Um, but the Stanley Parable made me look at like narrative and kind of multifaceted things, because that's a game where a narrator kind of dictates what you do, but you can decide against what he does, and then he says different things depending on what you do. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of direct acknowledgement of the player's actions, and this kind of meta narrative that unfolds. And it's just like an indie game that's based off of like it was made in a Steam engine, I'm pretty sure.
It was made with Valve's engine, the Source engine.
Oh, the Source engine. Yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, just the fact that it came from like TF2 and all these, and you're literally just a guy named Stanley that lives works in an office, and you're like the only employee apparently, and you kind of uh take a peek behind the veil of the curtain, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
or don't, depending on what you do. But it
There's
was
like
just the concept
25
of that
different
game, and
endings you can get out of that.
oh, there's like 15 different endings, I think,
Yeah, there's a
depending how you go
bunch.
about
There's
it.
a bunch. But
But I just like that. I just like that concept for like storytelling, and I've
mhm,
wanted to try something with that for a while.
it really does spark the imagination in that sense.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'd say top 5 games for me. There's a great indie company called Supergiant Games. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but I'd recommend at least checking out their music, Devin, because you'd be a huge fan of their music. I think you'd really dig their style and their kind of
Okay.
lyricism they have in a lot of their songs, and how they
What's it called
dynamically
again?
play into each game. Supergiant Games. Yeah, they made games like Pyre, Hades is their most popular one, I think, but Transistor, I think, is easily their best game. It's like a cyberpunk future where you play as this singer who loses her voice, and her husband gets murdered
Okay.
by a sword, and his soul is transferred into the sword. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining it, but it's actually has a really interesting twist on turn-based combat where it happens in real time, but you can stop combat and at any point, and you could just freeze time and kind of move your character around and do certain things, but you have a time limit. And every time you do that, you have to wait for that ability to recharge. So it's like it's turn-based, but you can only stop at certain periods of time. So it's a very interesting take on that. I absolutely love the music and the universe and all of the characters within it. There's a lot of like really good lore too. Like it adds like a great sense of mystery to the setting, and I really don't want to say much more because it's such a
Okay.
amazing, a very underrated experience. I don't think the
Well,
game gets as much love as it deserves, personally. Despite the fact that a lot of people genuinely like it, I don't think they. Not to be that guy, but I think it still somehow deserves more love. And obviously, Metroid is huge. Super Metroid, Metroid Prime, best Metroid games by far. Super Metroid is age. It gets better with age. Like through
right on.
all of the speed running, through like the general atmosphere of the game, what they could pull off with like the technology they had just blows my mind every time. And of course, there's also The Last of Us, which is like easily the best single player cinematic experience. And I'm so glad that they never made a sequel. That ruined the
Right.
original experience and what they were going for. And Bloodborne and Hollow Knight. Bloodborne is my favorite Soulsborne game. I'll fight that point to the day I die, even though a lot of Dark Souls fans kind of hate the game for going in a slightly different direction. I personally love it more for doing so. And Hollow Knight is just perfect. I still can't believe that game was made by 2 guys. Like, there's so much content, and none of it feels like filler, none of it feels boring, and it's just perfect in every way. So, yeah, those 5 games for me, for sure. Huge plus.
Nice.
Recommend.
So my
all of
number
them.
1 is Last of Us 2.
Hey, get out of here!
I'm
I'm gonna take a golf club and smack you in
I've
the head.
I've never played either game. Sorry, dude. Just
I do recommend the first one.
yeah, I've heard.
Don't
I've
bother with
heard.
the second one. But
I
do
was looking
recommend
at
first.
the Super Giant games. Apparently, they made Pyre, Transistor, you mentioned, Bastion, and Hades. I've seen that our cover art for that one.
Yeah,
go around.
Hades is the most famous, I believe, right now.
Yeah, it's definitely the most recent one, right? Didn't it just
Yeah.
come out?
Yeah, it
Like
came out
last year?
last year. That was
Okay.
should have won more awards than Last of Us 2, but it didn't.
Yeah. So my top 5, I'll just rip through real quick. 'cause
Go
I know
for it.
That's all. Interesting thing. All of these are on different systems.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Okay.
Nice.
So, number 5 is Tetris for the Game Boy.
Classic.
Not color, not advanced, just the good old brick Game Boy. And I still, to this day, love Tetris to death. Number 4 is actually Rock Band. Rock Band was huge for me. Sadly, I was already a drummer for a couple years, so the drums were a little lackluster for me, and I was never. I can play expert on guitar, but I'm not a good guitarist in real life, so it doesn't
Nice.
translate well for me.
No, like I remember hearing a story of Eddie Van Halen. He tried playing Guitar Hero and he couldn't get past easy.
Yeah, on his own
Play-
song. Yeah,
Playing his own song, and then
Yeah.
there was even a video of Rush trying to play their own
Yep.
song on GarageBand and just failing. So there's no correlation between the game and the actual
no, and that's
instrument.
I
which is-
highly excel at the game version of the guitar more than most, and I'm not that great at Guitar Hero. The subtle differences I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless, number 3 for me is Spyro for the PS1.
Yeah, buddy. Which one? Which one's the best?
Huge. It was like, and it's a very simple game when you go back and look at it. I really want to get the remasters. That's
Yeah, the remasters do a good job. Which
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
3 is your favorite? Just the original?
Pardon? I only ever had PS1. Yeah, so just the
Well,
original.
there's Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon
Yeah.
for PS1 as well.
Oh, Jamara loves Ripto's Rage.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
the
a
best one,
playthrough.
I think.
I did a playthrough with her in like very.
I
quick
actually
she-
I picked up like a first like generation PS1. I found it secondhand in a thrift store like some years ago, and there was a couple games that came with it, and one of them was this one called Apocalypse starring Bruce Willis.
Yes. Sounds like
Oh,
best
that-
game.
Have you ever played that, or have you ever seen that?
Apocalypse
I've
starring. Oh, hang on, let me Google this real quick.
It's
Apocalypse.
basically it's like a shooter game, like with Bruce Willis quipping like one line.
So it's
Like
just
he was
Duke
he was
Nukem. Oh
If I wanted
my
to see it-
god. I'm sorry, I have to share this Uncanny Valley nightmare of an early PS1 cutscene of Bruce Willis. Check out the live feedback.
if I
Yeah.
wanted to see oh lord.
God, why is
Good
this
I don't
one
know what's
eye
worse.
inserted into his face? And
Hey.
so if you're listening at home, Google Apocalypse starring Bruce Willis and look at the nightmare fuel of the CGI. Wait a minute, developed by Neversoft? The guys who made Neversoft made Guitar Hero. These are made by and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes, Tony Hawk Pro. How did I forget about Tony
What
Hawk
the
Pro?
fuck?
Oh my
How did I
god,
not hear
Tony
about
Hawk!
this? Yeah,
I
and they
forgot
made
about
Guitar
Pro
Hero.
Skater 2.
That is
I
not
saw
accurate.
game
Look at that
too.
side by side. Jesus.
Holy
But they
fuck.
did motion. Oh man. Yeah,
Early motion capture, that's nuts.
that is
That's-
insane.
that's
But yeah,
not even-
Silent Hill had like early motion
Right.
capture too, if I'm not mistaken. The first 2 games, anyways. Second game does a pretty good job of it, but first game is about on par with that for CG can't cutscenes. Sorry, go on, Daryl.
You know what? Seeing this stuff, did anyone ever watch reviews on the Run or Electric Playground?
Yes, all the time, baby.
Reviews on
Yeah,
the
Yep. And it's a
Tommy
Canadian channel.
Tallarico, Victor Lucas.
Yep.
those. Yeah, so I believe this was like some Canadian like review show. If for those not in the know, and it was like these 2 guys that would review video games, and I remember watching this show literally all the time, and I recorded on VHS, and actually, I kind of pissed myself off years later for this. I had a VHS rip of Five Will Goes West, which was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I never even saw like the first American Tail. I just saw like Five Will Goes West, and I had it on VHS, and I got used to that particular like grain on that particular tape associated with that movie.
Mhm.
And I uncovered it like years later, and I'm like, yeah, I want to watch this and relive my childhood. And then it gets to a certain point, and then I realized I taped over half of it with reviews on the Run.
Good choice. Good choice. Better
Oh
choice.
man.
Hey, that's
And
awesome.
I'm like, oh man, I'm
You
I'm
know,
so
like,
mad at my
again-
8-year-old self, but I also don't blame him.
He tried to save you. Here's something better. Sorry, Daryl, go on. We interrupted.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just ripping through them. Then Pokemon Silver was huge for me.
Yeah.
On the game.
Oh yeah.
Fucking yeah, I missed out on the first wave, so it was a big one for me. And then yeah, Mario Kart 64, number one.
Yeah.
Nobody can beat me. There's lots of people out there that are like, "Oh, I'm
Nice.
so good at Mario Kart," and
You're
I'm
like,
like,
no.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
And
we should
heavily bled
play
into my
Mario Kart
obsession
8
with-
Deluxe sometime on the Switch.
I'm not good
I'm not
until we
good.
hit Rainbow Road.
Well, shouldn't it be the opposite?
I'll let you
You're good until you hit Rainbow Road.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's an interesting twist. Aaron, do you have 5 games that really stand out as your favorites?
Yes, I do, in fact.
Nice. Go on.
Okay. They're not in any order, mind you, and
That's fine. They don't have to be.
my favorite, there might be ties or groups like in each one, so hope you don't mind that.
That's fine. Go on.
My favorite, I like the Sly Cooper series.
Nice.
Um,
What do you think of the one that was made by the studio behind? What was it?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Yep, Sucker Punch. They did it.
Yeah. What do you think of that one? A lot of people were disappointed with.
I have never
fourth
played
one.
Ghost of Tsushima, but I still want to play it because I still love
Oh,
Japanese.
I meant,
like,
what do you think of their take on Sly Cooper? They made the 4th one, I think. Thieves in Time.
yeah, Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. I'd say it's a lot better than expected.
Oh, that's good. So people were
And-
just too harsh on it then.
Yeah. Last of Us. I still want to play part 2. Sorry, Ian.
No, it's not terrible. It's not the worst. So I
No.
maybe give it a try when it's on sale or if you can rent it. Just over exaggerating for the lulz.
Let's see. I'm trying to. It's
Maul
been.
faints over.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just typing.
Yes, Mason, these are our favorites.
Yeah, we're just sharing our top 5 favorite games or
Okay,
most
so I mentioned Sly
influential
Cooper
games.
series, and what else did I mention?
You mentioned Grand Theft Auto. What about
The
Vice
Last of
City?
Us. Well, it's not a favorite game of mine of all time, really. It's a favorite GTA game.
Okay, but Rockstar in general, like, is one of their games one of your favorites? I know you like Manhunt a lot.
Yeah, I like Manhunt a lot. Not just for its difficult gameplay, but for its atmosphere and music. Seriously, if
The
you
music
listen
is
to the
amazing,
music,
yeah.
sounds like something straight out of a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah, I heard the music's really good for that. And Rockstar always has good choices of music. Hotline Miami. Would you say that's one of your favorites?
Yes.
Yes. The game
1 and
single-handedly
2.
inspired by Drive. Even 2?
Yep.
Oh, I heard.
2 like expanded on the story and lore.
Oh,
And number 5, Earthbound.
nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Earthbound.
I guess
That-
is just pure nightmare fuel.
Hmm.
That I think that ties back to Undertale, because apparently that was a huge influence on Undertale was Earthbound.
Lots of
Which
influences.
I never played the original Earthbound. I've been wanting to get into them. Like, I found out about a lot of those early Nintendo games because of Smash Brothers. Like, that was the first game I ever had.
Yeah, that's how a
basically,
lot
I
of
think.
people found out about Earthbound. Because for longest time, Earthbound was not translated well to the West. Like, a lot of people
Yeah.
were missing. I think Mother 2 is still in development hell. Like, the English translation of that game is still in development hell. So really, it's just Earthbound and Mother 3 that people can play right now in the West. Unless I'm mistaken, of course. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, chat. Yeah. So I think that's all. Yeah, actually, real quick, our friend Mason Butchko, very good friend from film school, is in the comment section, and I'm curious. Even though I probably know Silent Hill and Resident Evil is gonna be in this list somehow, what are your top
yeah.
5 favorite games, buddy? I'm curious to see your list.
I think Mason got the PS2 while I got the Xbox growing up, so I think he got into those PlayStation games.
I got the PS2 and the GameCube growing up. I also
Nice.
played Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. That's an honorable mention for favorite games.
I picked up like a first generation PS1 secondhand. I picked up a GameCube secondhand. I still haven't got the games for them, but I lucked out finding those particular consoles at fucking Goodwill years ago.
Nice.
Or actually, no, I think the GameCube I got at a flea market. But I liked rediscovering some of these consoles I couldn't have growing up, just because parents should only let you pick one because you're not a rich kid, which is
Typically,
good.
yeah.
Which is fine. I think it's good to appreciate what you have. Some kids didn't get anything at all, right?
Exactly.
And so I had the Xbox and I loved that thing and got really into Halo because that was the Xbox exclusive games. I actually never got Fable because even though that was an exclusive Xbox game, it's always games that my friends had that I got to play for like 5 minutes or however long to try out. Oh man, I can't believe I never mentioned Zelda, like Ocarina of Time.
I feel so guilty because I love Zelda.
Oh, what?
yeah.
Do you prefer Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask?
I never got Majora's Mask. It was it was one of those things. Actually, there was a buddy of mine who was a buddy of mine at the time, just because he lived down the street, even though he was a real asshole. He had Majora's Mask and he'd never let me play it.
Well,
yeah.
Now you have the opportunity to. And don't play it through Nintendo Switch Online because somehow their N64 games don't work. Either look up...
Really?
Yeah, either get like a ROM hack of the N64 copy or play it on 3DS. Yeah, because...
Yeah, I should look into alternatives.
Jamar's got a top 5 too.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Ooh,
Jamar,
share away.
Share away, Jamar.
Alright, my top 5. Ooh, sorry. Alright, so my top 5, Xbox, Rock Band. That was my high school.
Yeah. Rock Band 2, I actually believe. You played a lot more second.
Yeah.
Regardless.
One of them.
That's a lot of people's favorite.
Spyro 2, Ricto's Rage. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I approve. I approve of Insomniac Games love.
Yes. And it was great because whatever levels I couldn't complete, I'd get my sister to complete them, and then we'd just like power through the whole thing. It was awesome. It was a tag team.
Oh yeah. That was the thing. I would always send. I'd always get my siblings to work on some levels, or vice versa. We'd always try to cover each other for certain parts when we were stuck.
The best part. Crash Bandicoot.
Which one?
The OG PlayStation 1. Like, I don't know how many times I played that. That's just on the list. Because
was that Crash Bandicoot 2, 3, or 1?
1.
Oh, just the original. Okay.
Original.
Nice.
The
PS1.
best bridge level. Non-maddening whatsoever. Oh, I hate that level. I played it for the remaster and just wanted to pull my hair out. Sorry, go on.
No. I want to play the remaster too. I'm interested in that. We just don't have any new consoles.
Yeah.
Mario Party. Because I'm really not competitive. I just want to like sit there and play with my friends and do some mini games. Like I don't want to like
yell at people for getting the star.
It can.
Friendship.
It can, but like it's not as competitive as Kart. It's not as competitive as Smash Bros. Like I don't know.
I'd argue it's more competitive, and that's where I have to respectfully disagree.
Maybe.
Depends who you play with.
Yeah.
Everyone I play with gets pissed off. And
and then
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
One more.
There was this. Okay, this is a random one.
Oh.
There was this game on Wii that me and my friend used to play, and we could play it 2-player. It was called Trauma Center.
Yes. God, yes.
And, like,
I've seen playthroughs of that.
It was like we stayed up till like 2 in the morning just doing surgery.
Yeah, it's such a weird game.
Slicing people and stitching them back up and taking removing their organs. Like, it was so fun.
And if you failed on patience, like, the story would just continue anyways, right? Like, that's the most demented part about it, and it would change accordingly.
There's that, or there's Surgeon Simulator.
Trauma Center has a really goofy story to it, though. I think it's the same people that did Persona, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah, it's very bizarre and out there, but the story is like Phoenix Wright. It's like really goofy, but surprisingly like compelling at times. And Phoenix Wright is a game I gotta get into. That's a series I never played despite knowing DS. Thank you very much, Jamar and Darryl. Mason mentioned his options. A Resident Evil remake.
Steve.
Okay. Skyrim. So, finally awake. Silent Hill 2. Xenoblade Chronicles. Still need to play that. I heard the remaster's pretty good. And Kingdom Hearts. Well, for a guy named Keyblade, I can't say I'm too surprised, but nice list.
That's a good one.
I tried getting into Kingdom Hearts. It wasn't my thing, but I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
When you walk
I
away,
couldn't take
you walk-
any more of Mickey saying, "Oh, and the darkness on this end of the world affects these characters." Gosh, Mickey, what happens if that goes? That's most of the exposition in the game, but yeah, not my thing. But I appreciate those who love it. You know, it has a great soundtrack. I'll say that
Oh,
about the
that
games.
opening song, man.
Yeah, the great
That was my
great
childhood.
music in all three games. Even the third one, which is supposedly the worst of the trilogy, still has a great soundtrack.
I also love the Mass Effect trilogy.
Oh yeah, that's a classic one. Not super huge on those games, but I still enjoyed them. You know, I love the characters a lot. Obviously, the companions.
Garrus is a badass.
Yeah, Garrus is a badass. I like a lot of the Mass Effect 2 companions. Like Thane Krios was awesome. Legion was the bestest boy. I like Miranda's character, not so much the camera angles they chose for her. Jacob's bland and generic, but you know, every Mass Effect game has a bland, generic companion. Kaidan is the most boring, lame companion imaginable. So you know, they all have the bland, generic companion, so it's not too annoying. And Samara's awesome. I wish they made her I guess they technically make her romanceable in Citadel, but you know, beyond that, they don't really go anywhere with that. Yeah, those are my thoughts on Mass Effect. Thank you for my TED Talks. Alright, I think that's all we really wanted to talk about. Thank you so much, Arron, Darryl, and Jamar, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Mason, for your insight as well.
No, Ian, thank you for having this night.
Yeah, and happy
Yes.
holidays to everybody. Devin has a PC now. Stephen told me he's getting a next-gen console, so maybe in the future, fingers crossed, I could potentially recommend some next-gen games for us to play, maybe, potentially. Who knows? We'll see in the future. Next week, we're talking about Dreamcatcher, which sounds insane, and I can't wait to watch it. Let Me In, a foreign language vampire film that is very, very good, but we'll, you know, talk about that in further detail. And The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, not the remake that doesn't exist, not the original film that doesn't exist. So look forward to that. And is it Tuesday or Thursday yet? Have a great night, guys. See you later. Everybody say bye.
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 Oh, God. That
Have a
was
good night,
awesome.
y'all.
Yeah.